fellas, and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now today's video is a little bit different from my usual videos because I've got to that saturation point with my games. As you can see behind me, I have a relatively full Kallax. I have over to my right another full Kallax. I've got a room upstairs which has not Kallax but some more shelves full of board games. And with this number of board games, there's always going to be some board games that I just don't get round to playing anymore. Not necessarily that they're bad games, it's just the fact that I would probably prefer to play another game rather than some of the games I'm going to talk about. So today's video is going to be a culling video. I'm going to go through maybe 10 or 12 games that I'm getting rid of out of my collection and tell you why I'm getting rid of them out of my collection. There'll be some ones from similar publishers in here, and there'll be some ones that are a little bit more, I suppose, less known. But yeah, I've got reasons for not liking or not wanting to keep some of these games, and there's certainly one or two fairly big name items in there. So I'm just going to reach down and randomly grab a game and tell you why I'm getting rid of that first game. So my number one game in my culling that we talk about today is Viticulture by Stonemaier Games, the much-loved wine-making game from Stonemaier. People go absolutely gaga over Viticulture. Now, I only have the Essentials Edition. Admittedly, I do not have Tuscany. I played this maybe more than half a dozen times, and I find the game inherently very, very boring. I just don't get any joy when I'm playing Viticulture. So much so that I probably haven't played it now for the best part of a year now, and it's just been sat in my collection gathering dust. And I know there are people out there that want to play Viticulture, that enjoy Viticulture, and probably would get more enjoyment out of owning Viticulture than I do. I don't have the Tuscany expansion, as I mentioned. I know that people say, you've got to have the Tuscany expansion, but if I don't like the base game, I'm hardly going to spend any more money on the Tuscany expansion. So for me, Viticulture, the only winemaking game that I want in my collection is Vinos, the 2016 or the deluxe edition from Eagle Griffin Games. So I don't need another winemaking game. I don't really enjoy wine that much, and I certainly don't enjoy the rather vanilla kind of worker placement of Viticulture. So there we go. Viticulture is leaving my collection. Oh, that feels kind of cathartic to kind of say I'm getting rid of that game. It's been staring at me from the shelves upstairs for quite a while now. So let's go to another game, and this is a fairly recent release, and it's a game that has just had an expansion launch on Kickstarter, and I bought the base game fairly recently. Some of my peers and people that I respect, not only in the content creation, but also in the board gaming, solo gaming world as well, really, really enjoy this game. And I played it, and I've played maybe 3 or 4 times now, and every time I've played the game, I've always thought that I could be playing something else. I just don't enjoy it in the slightest, and that game is Kingdom Rush by Lucky Duck Games. Now, this has just come out on, not Kickstarter, on GameFound as well. They just launched the expansion on GameFound. Massively successful on GameFound, and I do like Lucky Duck as a company. But I found this just a mechanical game to play. I didn't get bought into the theme. I just didn't enjoy what I was doing. It just became a bit of a, I don't know, a dry puzzle for me to work out what needed to happen. I know people say that after Scenario 3 it gets better, and I did play through to Scenario 3, and then I thought, I've invested quite a lot of time in this game. It's just not for me. It's clearly not for me, and I'm so glad that people enjoy it. It's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. People out there absolutely love it. I know that some people like it because they will play it with their children, because their children like it because of the mobile game, but for me, it's as dry a puzzle game as there can be. I just get no enjoyment from Kingdom Rush, which is a real shame. I was kind of holding out on buying it for quite a while, and then when I got it, I was like, oh God, is that it? So yeah, second game I'm getting rid of, Kingdom Rush by Lucky Duck Games. What else then? Here we go. This is a game, and it wasn't released as a solo game. Then last year, Czech Games Edition released some solo rules for it. I reviewed those solo rules, and I've had a cracking time playing it, but I think I've played it through solo now. I played it quite a number of times, had a great time playing it, but maybe after, I don't know, 10 or so plays solo, there's nothing else that it has to show me. I'm sure that obviously it shines as a multiplayer game, and of course I'm talking Sanctum by Czech Games Edition, designed by Philip Note. There is nothing wrong with Sanctum, and I think CGE have got to be applauded for their stance on for the solo community over the last 12 months or so, where they are just kind of releasing these post-release solo modes for multiplayer games like Sanctum. I've got Adrenaline back there, which I still need to do a video on the solo mode for Adrenaline, and it's great. It doesn't cost you anything, and you get to have some solo experience with it. They've done it recently with Lost Ruins of Arnak as well, a game which, if you follow me on the forums, you'll know that I'm not a massive fan of. I had it, I played it, I beat it on all the difficulty levels, and then I got rid of it to buy Dune, which I enjoy more. Many people out there love Lost Ruins of Arnak, and of course CGE have released some more difficult solo cards in print and play, and there is going to be a solo campaign. But I think CGE have got to be applauded for what they're doing for the solo community, and I think Sanctum is a cracking entrance into that. But I played it so much now that I don't need to play it again. I think next time I play Sanctum, I'd like to play it against other people. So Sanctum is the next game leaving my collection. So that's 3 down. 3 down. How many's left? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Still kind of 9 left. Let's talk about my 4th game that's leaving my collection. And this one might cost me my solo gamers card. And the game I'm talking about is Robinson Crusoe by Portal Games. I mean, this is an essential solo purchase. If you're a solo gamer, then you must have, or have owned, or have played Robinson Crusoe. And same with Friday, although I've never played the physical Friday. I've just played the app of Friday. And Robinson Crusoe is a truly difficult game to win as well. It's notoriously difficult to win. It provides a hefty challenge. It's this wonderful kind of resource management, worker placement, threat management game where everything is destined to kill you. And if that's your thing, you're going to have a great time with Robinson Crusoe. I played it a number of times. I think it's good. I like the various scenarios in there. I'm just not going back to it, and I haven't gone back to it for the best part of a year now, maybe 10 months or so. So that's got to speak something to me there in the fact that I'm choosing to play other games instead of Robinson Crusoe. It deserves all the accolades it gets as a solo game for solo players. I think it shines massively as a solo game. It's a fantastic experience if you like it, and people that do like it will play it a lot. For me, it's not grabbed me. It's not got me coming back time after time, and I'd say I'm probably 10 months without having a game of Robinson Crusoe. Maybe that means I need to move this on and let somebody own and love Robinson Crusoe the way that I can't love Robinson Crusoe. Bye bye, Robinson. Oh, shocker, you wait, there is another one coming which is a fairly big release, and there's a couple of big releases that I'm going to speak about. One of them coming that's a fairly big release that may shock a few people as to why I'm getting rid of it. What's this one down here? Okay, it's another Lucky Duck Games game, and again it's a cracking game, and that is Chronicles of Crime, and I've also got Red View and Noir in here. And I've played them through, and I've had a great time playing Chronicles of Crime. It's been a great time, but as a solo player, there's no need for me to go back. There is no replayability there. So I've enjoyed my journeys through Chronicles of Crime. I have, played through this. I played through Noir. I played through the Return to Redview or Redwood, whatever it's called, which are all great games. But there's nothing there to keep me coming back as a solo player. I thought about keeping it maybe for the odd family games nights that we have. But you know what? I think I've experienced this. There's other things I'd rather play with my family. So Chronicles of Crime, a cracking game. It's a decent solo experience. It's not the best solo experience because you're literally against yourself trying to work this out. So you don't get the interplay of other people trying to pick up on the clues. But it's a decent solo experience. It doesn't cost that much money. But because I played it, it's leaving my collection, so that's Chronicles of Crime by Lucky Duck Games. So we're cracking on a fair bit here. That's quite a few that have gone out. We've got Viticulture, we've got Kingdom Rush, we've got Sanctum, we've got Chronicles of Crime, we've got Robinson Crusoe, and now it's time for yet another Stone Meyer game. Now this game is, well, it's a bit of a solo darling. It's a bit of a board gaming darling. It won all the accolades. It will probably continue to win all the accolades for a number of people, for a number of reasons. And I played it solo. I played it with my family, and I've had a decent time playing it. It's Wingspan. This was kind of a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, a difficult game to get hold of. It was going for absolutely insane prices. And I got Wingspan and I set it out and I played solo and I thought, hey, this is really good, really engaging. And then I played it again and I thought, okay, I'm not really having as much fun as I thought I was going to have with Wingspan. And then a number of times I played it, and I don't know, maybe I've played this 10 or 15 times, either solo or with my family, and each time it's lost that luster for me. It's lost that sheen for me. It doesn't keep me coming back. There's not enough there. And when I think in the world of kind of engine builders and tableau builders that I've now got, and how I much prefer a game of Pax Pamir 2nd edition to Wingspan, I think that tells you where my expectations on an engine builder or a tableau builder are. It's a great family game. I understand why Wingspan is so popular. The artwork is fantastic. The design of the game by Elizabeth Hargrave is great. It's kind of involving. It teaches you things about ornithology that you potentially didn't know or never thought you wanted to know. So it has a lot going for it as a game, and I've played it a lot, but again, other than I think last summer I played it against my wife during lockdown in the garden when the sun was out, and then it's been tucked away on a shelf since then. So Wingspan by Stonemaier Games is another Stonemaier game leaving my collection. Okay, let's move on to a game which a couple of years ago featured fairly highly in my top 10 list, and then it's kind of trailed off a little bit, and then I resurrected it over the Christmas period. And I thought, okay, a bit of house ruling makes this game more enjoyable for me. And I got some expansions that have arrived for it as well that I backed in the Kickstarter that arrived obviously a lot later. But after playing it over the Christmas period and having a decent time, having a good time, and then not going back to it, I think it's time again to pass it on. And that game is Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon. It's a huge, sprawling campaign game. I've got the miniatures, the Sundrop miniatures for it, and on my shelf back there, I don't know if you can see it somewhere, I've got the Age of Legends and the Last Night expansion for it as well, which is out of the shrink wrap, but that's literally about it. And I don't think I will ever get round to playing the Age of Legends expansion. I've got the Monsters of Avalon minis for this, Sundropped, and I've got Tainted Grail, the base game. I played through the campaign, maybe, the first, 6 chapters, 5 chapters, something like that, so maybe about 30 hours into it. And then I resurrected it again over the Christmas period and played chapters 1 and 2, and house rule it so the menus weren't that much of a problem. But it's a huge, sprawling campaign of a game that deserves kind of repeated plays. It needs you to go back, to continue playing it, to extend your adventure, and to get the most out of the wonderful journey and the story that's involved in here. And I just don't physically have the time to do that. I still think it's a good game. I still think it's a massive achievement by Awaken Realms. I think, it really deserves a lot of the accolades that it gets. And I can also understand why people don't like it as well. Because unless you house rule those menhirs or something in the game, then the grind can be kind of depressing for it. The story is kind of wonderful, sprawling story through. As you're kind of searching through Avalon, this Arthurian legend is just absolutely fantastic. It is great. In fact, I had 2 copies at one point. This copy was given to me back in Essen 2019 by Marcin when I was at Essen to do a review, and then my Kickstarter copy arrived at the back end of last year. I actually gifted that to a friend, the Kickstarter copy, and now I think it's actually time to sell my other copy. I've enjoyed my time with it. I know that some people have completed the campaign and had a great time. It daunts me the amount of game I haven't played in this, and certainly when I look at the Age of Legends and Last Night expansion, I know I am never ever going to be in a position to commit enough time or have the drive to commit enough time to Tainted Grail. So it's another game that deserves to be played, and it feels right for me to sell this on and let somebody get the benefit of this wonderful game. So yeah, Tainted Grail by Awaken Realms. It's leaving my collection. So we're about halfway through the list, and I thought we'd just have a quick discussion about why we collect games as board gamers, what drives us to collect more and more games, and surely it's a bit of a false economy, because as we buy these games, invariably they're not really investment pieces. There are some that I've paid far more for, even if I sold everything in my collection, like say Kingdom Death Monster, which I must have spent well in excess of £1,000 on now. Even if I sold it all, I probably wouldn't reap all that back. So what drives me and drives us all to buy more and more board games. It's a bizarre thing. I've never really been a collector. My hobbies in the past have been more physical, so scuba diving as a scuba diving instructor and jiu-jitsu as a jiu-jitsu instructor. In fact, the only thing I've ever really collected before board games is Empire, the film magazine, and I've got every edition of that since kind of 1988. There's something about board games, though, it's the tactility and the excitement of getting a new board game. And I can truly understand why people have shelves of shame, or shelves of opportunity, let's call it, because it's quite an exciting and exhilarating feeling of getting this physical copy of something. You know, it feels good, it's tangible, you can see it. You get excited about what adventures may lie within. And I'm fairly good. I don't really have a shelf of opportunity. Generally, within a week or so of receiving a game, I've opened the game, I've read the instructions, and I've played at least the first game or the first session of that game, or I've set it up and gone through it to learn the rules. So I'm pretty good. I don't really have a shelf of opportunity as such, but there is something inherently great about getting new games and flashy. And of course, with the advent of Kickstarter and the popularity of board gaming forums, be that on Facebook or on Twitter or on Reddit or maybe less so on Instagram, there's always this kind of FOMO as well, the fear of missing out, of course. And it's, you know, you see somebody's got something new and shiny and it becomes, oh my God, I really want this new and shiny thing. And you see that happen more and more and more. So already, you know, companies like Stonemaier, who've done fantastic amounts for the solo community, they've just had their pre-orders for Red Rising come out. And Red Rising is, you know, nobody's really, there's a couple of reviews out there, but people are backing this because it's shiny and new. And somebody mentioned on the solo board gamers forum on Facebook, you know, should I back this game? Should I get this game? Not back it. Should I put a pre-order in for this game? And I was like, hold on a second. It's had no solo reviews yet. You don't need that game as soon as it comes out. Why not wait a little bit and see if you can pick it up on the second-hand market, because even if it sells out, people will be getting rid of it, or just wait 6 months, because there's going to be a plethora of other games, and I'm sure we've all got games that we buy and don't play that we could do instead of buying new games as well. But there is this desire to buy more games, and I find it really fascinating and interesting that I get myself get caught up in that. You know, randomly start backing games on Kickstarter or looking on eBay for stuff, and then obviously as a reviewer, fortunately, I'm in a fortunate position where I sometimes get preview and review copies through of games, so that kind of boosts my collection as well. I still kind of buy 90% of everything that I have, though. So yeah, most of the money that's been invested in this is my money. I've enjoyed looking at these games, but more and more as time's gone on, I've thought, maybe it's just time to get rid of a few, and that's where we are today. So I did a small cull last year. I'm doing a slightly bigger cull at the moment. So that's just a little discourse, and I think, why people collect games, why we don't potentially pass them on as much, why we buy new games when we've already got plenty of games that we don't play. But, you know, that's what makes this hobby absolutely wonderful, as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're not kind of destroying your own finances for the sake of one more game, as long as you are maintaining a good and relatively healthy and happy lifestyle, then more power to your elbow. Anyway, back to the games that are in my cull. Okay, so we're about halfway through now, and we're going to pick a game now. I'm going to tell you about a game now that I think I own everything that I've got for it, that is out there for it, and that's not a lot. It came out a couple of years ago, and it's one of the games I bought early on in my board gaming kind of life, so within the last kind of couple of years. And I enjoyed it, and I played it quite a lot at the time, and then it must be 18 months since I've last played this game. And it's a shame. It's a great puzzle game. I can understand why people don't like it, but it is a great puzzle game. And that game is, because it's covered in dust, it's City of Kings by Frank West. Look, it's a puzzle game akin to, not Mage Knight, but it's a puzzle game where you have this kind of predetermined landscape and you move around and you get these monsters that are randomly generated that you fight in order to solve the end puzzle. It's got lots of moving pieces. It's an absolute table hog. Takes a long time to set up and a long time to put away. But if you enjoy the puzzle of it, then you will have a great time with City of Kings. And I have enjoyed my time with it, and probably for the past year, I keep thinking to myself, oh man, I need to get City of Kings back to the table. I want to play City of Kings again. But then I think I also want to play Kingdom Death Monster again, or maybe I want another game of Too Many Bones, or maybe I want a game of Feast for Odin or Zia, all these kind of games that are going to take me a while to play and a while to get through, and City of Kings keeps getting pushed to the back of the queue, which is a bit of a shame because there's a lot of good game in here. I just don't give it the kind of special love that it deserves, and it does deserve kind of a little bit of special love. From my perspective, I'm probably not going to get it to the table. I've got to be honest with myself. It takes up a lot of shelf space. It's a big box. It's time to let somebody else enjoy City of Kings by Frank West. Right. So we're getting closer now, but I just thought of another couple of games I want to chuck in here as well. This one is yet another Stonemaier Games, and I think Stonemaier Games game, and I think I'm kind of almost getting to the point where as much as I appreciate Stonemaier and what they do, outside of Scythe, I don't think I've had a fantastic Stonemaier experience. I've had decent ones with Wingspan when I first got it. Charterstone, I enjoyed it at the beginning and it kind of passed me by. You saw my views on Viticulture. If you watched my video last year on Pendulum, you'll know that I absolutely detested the solo mode. It really isn't a solo mode that should have been released or advertised as such. It should have kind of just been released separately and let people make their own minds. Anyway, I digress. The next game I'm getting rid of is Tapestry by Stonemaier Games. I went in early on this and I got kind of one of the pre-orders with a decent number in it, etc. Got Tapestry, played it, kind of enjoyed it, and then kind of just waned away. And I think I did a review again about 15-16 months ago of Tapestry, and it's never hit the table since. So therefore I'm kind of 5 games into Tapestry. I don't really totally enjoy the solo experience. I think it's very arbitrary. It just doesn't feel connected. I don't think that you get the full use of all the civilizations in the solo mode, and as soon as I'm predominantly a solo player, then I can't see me ever getting Tapestry back to the table. It's been, again, another game staring at me from the shelves. It's time to let go of Tapestry, and that is my, third Stonemaier Games that I'm getting rid of now. So we've got, obviously, Viticulture, Wingspan, and Tapestry. I've still got Scythe, I've got the Scythe modular board, and I do want to get the expansions for Scythe as well. I want to get kind of Rise of Fenris, and the other boats and gunboats, whatever it's called, I can't remember, Wind Gambit, that's it. Goats, boats, and gunboats. I mean, that's a game if ever there was one, wasn't it? And I do have a copy of Red Rising coming, a review copy of Red Rising coming early next month. Obviously, I had Pendulum and got rid of Pendulum fairly quickly, as well as a review copy. So maybe Stonemaier isn't for me. Fantastic that there are lots of Stonemaier people out there and people that absolutely love them. And I think Jamie does fantastic work for the solo industry. But post-Scythe, nothing has really grabbed me, unfortunately. Next game, bit of a surprise. And I'm only in it, man, and I really enjoy this game. Like, I really enjoy Rallyman. I actually play Rallyman. I play Rallyman more frequently than I played any of these games down here, and I will continue to play Rallyman after I've got rid of this. Why? Well, you see, Rallyman is a great game. It's this tile game, and maybe the solo that comes with it isn't fantastic, but there's a couple of solo dashboards that you can download on BGG. I think it's Dr. Worms, and that creates a far more competitive solo experience, and it's absolutely great. I've got the expansions for Rallyman as well that came out with it. I've got the different cars, etc. It's a cracking game. So why am I getting rid of Rallyman? Because I predominantly play Rallyman on Tabletopia. Since kind of moving into and playing Rallyman, I haven't really played the physical version of Rallyman, and I do have Rallyman Dirt coming. I backed that on Kickstarter, so it's kind of coming back into my collection in a different form. But I don't think Rallyman GT is going to stay in my collection. Well, it's not going to stay in my collection. I'm going to obviously be selling it. It's part of the cull, so it's not going to stay in my collection because it's kind of the solo the implementation on Tabletopia gives me that Rallyman itch without having to spend half an hour setting different tiles up and looking for stuff, etc. So, as much as I like Rallyman, I think it is a cracking kind of reimagining of a game, and I'm looking forward to Rallyman Dirt. I'm getting rid of the physical copy because if I'm going to play it, I'm going to play it online against other people like Will Brown from Hungry Gamer and Michael Kelly from One Stop Comic Shop. So yeah, Rallyman, great game. I haven't played the physical version in a long time. Probably won't again. Let somebody else get the enjoyment out of Rallyman. Okay, round to this next game, and this is a game which many people like for multiplayer. And it came out last year, and I took a bit of a punt on it from a solo perspective. Yes, you can play it solo, and it's an app-assisted game, and you can play it solo, and it gives you a great experience, but I wouldn't necessarily say that you're playing a game. And this is one of those games that, yes, I played solo. I played it with 4 other people, and I've had a far better time than I played it solo. I don't think I'll be going back to playing it solo. I don't think I'll be playing it again with these other people because we played it quite a bit, and that is, there we go, Forgotten Waters. It tells this great tale, this pirate tale, this emergent pirate tale, not pirate, high seas tale, full of adventure. It's cracking. The voices on the app that tell you the story are great, and you do need the app to help you do the game along. So if you don't like app games, it's not for you. I don't mind app games at all, or app-enabled games. And it is a cracking game. No. It's a cracking experience for solo, and I think that's it. You don't necessarily play Forgotten Waters as a solo player. What you do is you experience Forgotten Waters, and that's fine. That's fine. It gives me a good diversion for a couple of hours, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm playing it. And I had my fun with it, and I've done the multiplayer thing and potentially seen more than I ever would do as a solo player. So again, a good game. There's nothing wrong with the game, but it is time to pass this on to somebody else right now. So the other game going out in my cull is Forgotten Waters. Okay, we're getting close to the end now, and this next game I'm getting rid of is a game that the game didn't cause controversy. The delivery of the game caused some controversy in the last kind of 12, 18 months or so, and it is a solo gamer's dream. I think Rado described it as Die Hard in a dungeon, and I managed to get hold of a copy on eBay. I didn't buy the Kickstarter, thankfully. I managed to get hold of a copy on eBay for a reasonable price, and I was really looking forward to diving into it. And I haven't had that much of a great time with it. It's just not for me. It's a decent enough game, and that's Unbroken by Artem Safarov. Look, I suppose ultimately there's nothing too much wrong with Unbroken. I just didn't strike a chord with me. I found it a little bit mechanical. I couldn't really have an adventure with it. I just was turning cards and fighting the next monster, etc. And I didn't really feel like I was engaged in it. I think for me, it's certainly been replaced recently by these couple of games here, which are Hunted. We've got Kobayashi Tower and Mining Colony 415 by Gabe Barrett. And Hunted provide a similar card-based kind of small box experience, this kind of singular adventure. But I have a much better time in Hunted than I do in Unbroken. It shares some of the same mechanics in there. But yeah, for me, Unbroken, it wasn't expensive for me to get it. I know there's everything that happened with the Kickstarter, and people are still very much ticked off with Golden Bell Studios, and understandably why. I think Artem has designed a good game here. It's just not for me. Just didn't strike a chord with me as a solo player. So this is leaving my collection. That is Unbroken by Artem Safarov. Now, we've got a couple of big games that are going to be leaving my collection that we're going to talk about now. One of them I've got the box lid here for. The other one, I'm not going to bring the box downstairs. It's upstairs. But you'll understand. I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm still looking around at my room, my game room here, and the man cave, and I can see a number of games that I maybe haven't played quite as much as I want to as well. There's things like Undaunted, or Freedom, the Underground Railroad, or Aeon's End, Hopland Macus I haven't played enough, Gaia Project I probably haven't played in a year or so. And I'm not getting rid of those because I have great experiences when I play those games, really memorable experiences, and I know at some point I'm going to go back to them and have another great experience. I look behind me here, Root, I thoroughly enjoy, that's never leaving. Cthulhu Death May Die, I'm having a great time with that with my wife at the moment. Too Many Bones, that's not leaving my collection ever. Teotihuacan, maybe Teotihuacan will leave. I have Tekhenu. I prefer Tekhenu to Teotihuacan, so maybe Teotihuacan. There's a big one down there, which is the collector's edition of Hellboy, the board game, and that probably is going to be leaving my collection as well. I think Cthulhu Death May Die does everything that Hellboy tries to do, and it does it far better, with far less bloat as well. So yeah, there are still a few games. This War of Mine is going to stay. I don't play it often, but when I have played it, I've had a enjoyable time. And if you know This War of Mine, then you'll know what I mean by enjoyable. Renegade by Ricky Royal by Richard Wilkins. It's not leaving my collection. I may not play it a lot, but yeah, that's not leaving my collection. I think it's a great and cracking solo game with some slightly convoluted rules, which may be being relaunched in the very near future. So this next game we're going to talk about is a game that came out kind of last year, and backers are still, I think there's a late pledge open for the next wave of it, and backers are still receiving their copies now. And it kind of, when it was released, there were a couple of big review channels out there that absolutely tore a strip out of it. I reviewed it and I said, yeah, there's a good game in there somewhere. Just struggling to really find it everywhere, but I understand why people like it. I think Alex Radcliffe at Board Game Co. had some issues with it, but I think he likes it more than me. And that game is Aetherfields by Awakened Realms. Again, I've got the kind of Creatures of Aetherfields, or whatever it's called now. If you watched my review on Aetherfields, as I say, you'll know that it was by no means a negative review. There were negative parts of the game, things like the slumber, etc., but by no means a negative part of the review. And again, I put probably more than 30 hours into Aetherfields. I'm nowhere, kind of maybe halfway through the initial campaign, and then I kind of reviewed it. I think it was November last year when I reviewed it, so we're now kind of halfway through March, and since the review I haven't got it back to the table. I think I played it once more since then because it was already out. I haven't got it back to the table, and I thought about getting back to the table, and I pushed that thought out of my head fairly quickly. And again, pretty much like Tainted Grail, it's just another large campaign game that hasn't grabbed me enough to make me want to keep it and go back to it. I can't envision a time when I'm going to go back and play Aetherfields. I know they're going to do some refined solo rules, so refined rules around the slumber phase, etc., which is great, fantastic. Awakened Realms are a fantastic company, as you know. Nemesis by Awakened Realms is kind of in my top 3 games, and probably will always be in my top 3 games. But I just have this thing about Aetherfields. I think the concept, it's high concept, and the concept isn't quite equal to the delivery, basically. Or the delivery isn't equal to the concept, should I say, in Aetherfields. There are lots of things to like about it. There are too many things about it that just don't keep me coming back to more. It's big, it's sprawling, the storyline isn't engaging, the slumber mode is tedious, and lots of these other things. And I could house rule it, but even if I did like Tainted Grail, I probably wouldn't play it that much. So Aetherfields with the Monsters of Aetherfields, I'm glad I've experienced it. It's got the kind of Awakened Realms quality. I'm not going to get it to the table again, so it's pointless me keeping Aetherfields. That's another fairly big game, cull there. So if you think about it, you look at some of the games that I'm getting rid of. There's a couple from Awakened Realms. There's 3 from Stonemaier Games, and they're slightly different. Stonemeier's worker placement, and Awakened Realms, these big sprawling campaigns. There's other games like, which I'm not going to get the box out because it's huge, but the Hellboy down there, which is just a game that's full of bloat, not necessarily totally thematic. The artwork is great, and I can see that they put some love into it, but again, I've got no desire to potentially open back up Hellboy. So Hellboy is another one that's on my cull list that I should have got out. So if you don't think that kind of Tainted Grail and Wingspan and Aetherfields and Robinson Crusoe are big news items for me to cull from my collection, what is the big game I'm culling from my collection? Well, it's a bit of a twofer. I think because there are 2 in this kind of series so far, and kind of worryingly, I've backed the 3rd game in this series on Kickstarter, which will be delivered at some point today. Now, I've not brought the box down because it's too big, and the game that's leaving my collection is Gloomhaven. Do I like Gloomhaven? And I think if I have to think about it, that kind of answers my question there, doesn't it? I don't get the payoff from Gloomhaven. I don't get the kind of reward from the time I invest into Gloomhaven. I've got the big box. It's very exciting, setting everything up and kind of laying everything out, and laying your dungeons out and having these emergent dungeons, and the RPG element as your kind of warriors, whatever you want to call them, your minis are kind of upgrading and they're getting slightly stronger, but that rules bloat in Gloomhaven. The fact there's lots of cross-referencing killed it dead for me. Then we got the next game in the collection, which I might see up in the top corner there, which I'm probably going to get rid of as well, and that's Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the campaign of Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, and I pretty much had enough. I know in my review I said, right, it's reinvigorated me for Gloomhaven. And I think I spoke too soon. It hasn't, but I can understand why people love Jaws of the Lion, and I've absolutely and have completed that campaign. But yeah, Jaws of the Lion is probably going. But Gloomhaven, for me, I want to like the game more than I like the game, and I think that's a real shame. You know, when I ordered Gloomhaven, I thought, right, here's a game that I can just leave set up, and I can just, you know, go on this wonderful journey that's going to last months and months, maybe a year or so, to play through every scenario. But the fact that the scenarios, the storyline is just so disconnected. I'm not invested in the storyline. It just makes me not want to get it back out. I don't feel anything. I just feel like I'm solving a puzzle, and that's a real issue for me as far as Gloomhaven's concerned. So I'm going to reset the box. Fortunately, I didn't rip anything up, and I got removable stickers for the map. So I'm going to reset the box and let somebody else have Gloomhaven and the enjoyment from there. And I'm probably going to get rid of Jaws of the Lion at the same time. Now, rather worryingly on the back of that, as I said, I've also got Frosthaven arriving at some point this year, and I'm going to have to decide what I do with Frosthaven as to whether I keep it. And maybe I do. Maybe I do. Maybe the experience that Frosthaven is going to give me is going to be enough to warrant me keeping Frosthaven. Maybe I don't. Maybe somebody out there may kind of have the ability to buy my Frosthaven pledge after I've received it, and I'm not going to do the whole thing of giving me money before the pledge arrives and etc. and blah blah blah. So yeah, if you're in the UK and may be interested in Frosthaven, don't get in touch. I'm not looking for you to get in touch. Please don't get in touch with me about it, because I don't know what I'm going to do with Frosthaven. I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to sell Frosthaven. Probably in my haste and my excitement, I'm going to open it and want to play it, and then get the same thing as I did with Gloomhaven, about 11 or 12 scenarios in, and just have enough. And if that's the case, then that's okay. That's fine as well, but I'll make the decision as that comes. So yeah, Gloomhaven for me. I think Isaac Childers has done an absolutely cracking job in creating this unique journey. I can understand why the puzzle works for so many people, and from my perspective, it just really doesn't. It just doesn't excite and engage me, and that's the reason I'm getting rid of Gloomhaven. And there we go. That's my list of games that I'm culling this year, well, at this moment in time. So over the next few weeks, eBay is going to be very, very busy as I start taking photographs and start getting myself in a position where I can sell some of these games. It's just two things for me, of course. The first thing is it clears up shelf space. And what does that mean? That means I can buy more games and get more games on my shelves. So it's kind of a cathartic experience there. Excise some and fill the holes with new games. And of course, it will release up some cash for me to allow me to buy more new games, so I can potentially feature them on the channel as well. As I already mentioned, there's a few games that may not survive the next wave of culling, and I've got Spirit Island over there, which again may be a game that doesn't survive a future culling. So I hope you enjoyed that kind of trip through my mind about why I'm getting rid of certain games, and I'm looking forward to the space they're creating and how I can fill those games. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey. What you've not seen down here is on the table at the moment, I've got the gallerist set up because I'm doing a live stream with Luke Hector at the Broken Meeple on the 13th of March, where we're discussing all the solo modes of Viticulture's game. So for the past 10 days, 14 days, past 10 days or so, I've been playing a Lacerda game a night just to make sure I've got that. My brain is a little bit fried at the moment. So yes, thank you very much for joining me on this journey. This is Not Board Gaming. My name's Mark. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Try not to knock the microphone. Like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our other videos. And one final thought. If you can't find anybody else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, goodbye.